So what is Veeam instance licensing? It's Veeam's newer model of licensing. Their previous versions were either based on subscription, which was per virtual machine, or if you were using agents for physical machines, then that was a subscription as well. Or you could buy it per socket, which is per socket on a protected host with virtual machines or data that you wanted to protect. That was an older style. It was not as modular. The licensing was fixed. So you had a set number of sockets, set number of virtual machines, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud. You couldn't move them around. But, I mean, unless you called, you'd have to either call support or, there was some work involved. Whereas the new instance licensing is fully modular and it's fully managed by the end user from the backup and replication console. And what this allows you to do is if you have workloads that are on-prem, physical or virtual, or in the cloud, you can change the licensing based on those workloads. Say if you're like, hey, I need to move the data to the cloud, or I need to move it back on-prem, but my licensing doesn't currently allow for it, that's where instance licensing is going to come in handy. Because then you can move all those licensing per instance in the backup and replication console, and you don't have to call into support, you don't have to ask anybody or jump through any hoops, you can do it all yourself. It's very user-friendly, and it's to give the end user that in control and in charge feel over their licensing as well as their data. So what does the new instance licensing not cover? Well, it does not cover Availability Orchestrator, Microsoft Office 365, as well as AIX and Solaris. Now you can see up on the screen all the workloads that the instancing license model covers. Whether it's AWS, on-prem, anywhere in the cloud, workstations, or physical. The instance licensing model covers just about every workload. So what would a new quote look like for Veeam instance licensing? Like, what's going on here? This is totally different. It's actually, think of the instance licenses as a pool. And you're going to pull your actual licensed items out of that pool. So say for instance you have 50 instance licenses or 100, and you want to, and the customer is saying, hey, I want to purchase the backup and replication standard edition. So you'll just say, okay, if they want to protect 50 virtual machines, well, that's 50 instance licenses. What if they want to protect 50 on-prem physical machines? It's a mixture of operating systems. Well, that would be 150 instance licenses. So you can definitely change up, how you think about instance licensing. You'll actually want to look at what you're protecting first, and then you'll say, okay, I'm going to have this many instances for what I'm wanting to protect. And then you'll usually end up with a fraction, especially if you're going to buy the Enterprise Edition, which is 1.5 instance licenses per on-prem physical machine that you're going to protect. So it'll pull, you'll definitely be getting some fractions when you create your quotes. But that's okay. There is a quoting tool that's available on Veeam's Partner Portal website. And this tool is very functional. If you have any further questions or need any other help, you can help your Veeam representative, especially if you have any complicated licensing issues, renewals, any sort of anything like that. Veeam instance licensing is bought in packets or bundles of 10 instances, and then you'll first select if you want backup and replication with or without monitoring, and then if you want 1, 3, or 5 year segments. So in summary, Veeam's instance licensing model is modular, it's functional, it's easy to use by the end user. They won't be calling about licensing issues or wanting to change where their licenses are located, if it's on-prem and in the cloud. So it puts the power back in the end user's hands, and it's all done from the backup and replication console.